So this is the second Conquergood article about moral acts. Not acts, whatever. Okay, so my thesis is there are certain morals and ethical responsibilities you have when you are portraying somebody else's culture, and you need to be respectful when you're doing it in performance ethnography. So first, Conquergood talks about ethnography and how it's unity and diversity. University, hey! Whoa, is that why that means that? Okay, anyway, so that's identity and difference. And then those are two sides of the spectrum. There's also detachment and commitment, which we'll get to later. So that's to deepen the understanding of beliefs in the culture, and then it's also to be vulnerable and open the dialogue between your culture and the culture that you have shared through the performance. And then you need to also, ethnography is working with people rather than text, to not distance yourself so that the audience doesn't in turn distance themselves as well. And then it's also finally the enactment of a moral stance. So there can be problems even when you are doing a good job of all of these moral ethical things. There will be audiences that will riot. They do not want to listen to your ideas, even if they are like the Judeo-Christian belief with the Christians, with wow, that was a total non sequitur. I'm talking about the Hmong culture that Conquergood talks about, the community he lived with, and how he shared these performances with a Christian community, and they rebelled. They were so upset that he was diverting from their beliefs. And then also the school that he had to go back to, 3-hour conversation to talk about how it's okay that he didn't correct them about their ideas, the Hmong ideas. So there are going to be these things. So first we're going to talk about the 4 ethical pitfalls that are mentioned in the article. So we're going to start with the custodian's ripoff, which is making yourself detached but still identifying. So this one is cultural appropriation, which is when you take somebody else's culture for your own motive, which in this case is their performance. So the example that he talks about on page 5 is the Hopis, the Hopi culture, and I think it's a dance that they did. I forget who did it, but it was not the Hopi culture. So the Hopi elders came and were like, hey, you need to stop this. This is really offensive. But they continued to do it because they were doing it for their own motives, which were corrupt motives. So then the next one that we talk about is the enthusiast's infatuation, which is being committed, but to the fact that you're taking their identity away from them, which they talk about this term on page 7. It's called protective solipsism, which is taking somebody's culture and identifying it with your own, to the fact where you're not celebrating the differences of their culture. It's like when people say, oh, we all came from Africa. Yes, ancestor, okay, that's great, but there's complete differences between you need to celebrate the differences, which is and so that's unethical, because you're glossing over and you're making generalities and saying, oh, we're all connected, and not seeing that there are differences that we need to talk about. And so, yeah. The next one is the cultural exhibitionists. The cultural curator's exhibitionism, which is commitment and difference. So it's commitment to difference. So it's romanticizing these cultures into being noble savages. That's one of the terms that Glassy talks about, and Conquergood. So what's happening is they're taking their it's called sensationalism, is the term that they use, and it's showing it off as if it's a museum exhibit. You're showing it off as if there are these like beautiful things that happen, but not realizing that, hey, there are similarities, and it's detaching yourself from culture, even though it is commitment. And then the last one is detachment, and it's detachment and distance. No, detachment and difference. So that one is the skeptic's cop-out. I liked the example that Conquergood put on page 8, which was, he literally said, "I am neither black nor female. I will not perform," from the color purple. So it's a refusal of a moral stand and risk encounter, which is a moral stand itself. So that one is like foreclosing any type of conversation. So what do we do? What's the good thing? The good thing is dialogical performance. So it takes all of these concepts and makes them a beautiful little circle. And it brings together the different voices, worldviews, value systems, and beliefs so that they can have conversations with one another. And so, yeah, that is what it's all about. That is what it's all about. And so, my questions are, which one do you think is the worst of the pitfalls? Which one frustrates you the most? And my second question is, do you think that there is a certain way for us as a student to make sure that we don't get into these habits of these ethical pitfalls?